Hello and welcome to Inside Evo. Now, we've done plenty of videos on F40s in the past, and I'm sure if you click on boxes somewhere on the screen you'll get links to them there. So why have we chosen to show you footage that is frankly not terribly good, because it wasn't shot by Sam, it was just me and GoPro? Well, to be honest, who doesn't want to be even more jealous of the job that I have and see an F40 on a sunny day in the Swiss Alps? This particular F40 belongs to the secret supercar owner who writes about it in the Fast Fleet section of the magazine. He asked us if we'd like to drive it back from Zurich, where he was currently keeping it, and so obviously it took me all of half a second probably to say yes to that. And Dean and I jumped on a flight, got out there, discovered the car was in fact had flat as a pancake in terms of the battery because somebody had taken the trickle charger out. So we charged it up eventually, got down to the first petrol station, and it was still flat as a pancake. So we had to bump start an F40, which is not something I ever thought I would do in my life, but there we go. And then had a fairly nervous journey back to Zurich, where the local Ferrari dealer switched batteries. Anyway, after all that, we headed south to a set of passes that, in fact, I'd cycled a couple of years previously, and they are just phenomenally spectacular. The roads in Switzerland, well, they're sort of known for being, I suppose, heavily policed. They don't like speed out there. But the passes in the early morning are just too good not to go and visit, to be honest. So the Susten Pass, the Furka Pass, be careful how you say that, and the Grimmel Pass are just this amazing loop that you can do around. As you can see from the photos, it's just the most magical place. There's one section of the Furka Pass, the sort of eastern side of that's probably a bit too narrow really for something like an F40, but the rest of it is really wide, it's smooth, and the scenery is stunning, and it's just one of the most amazing things I think I've ever done. The F40 itself, as we've said before, it takes a bit of getting used to. I think if you drove it for just drove it for an hour or so, you would probably be intimidated by it, frustrated by it, and probably walk away not really liking it very much, because all the controls are extremely heavy. The pedals, you feel like you need, I think I've said it before, you need the sort of the quads of Chris Hoy to operate the clutch, and the gear shift feels really sticky. You sort of got dogleg first, but then it's fine across the gate and you get the nice clack clack, but actually getting it in and out of the gears just feels really sort of obstreperous. And so trying to make smooth progress down the road doesn't really feel like it's something that's very easy, particularly obviously you add into that the engine, which doesn't really wake up to 4,000 RPM, and driving position, which is sort of bizarre because you've got your knees up around your ear holes, and then sort of you've got a bit of a bus driver's position with the steering wheel. And if you're lanky like me, then it all just feels totally odd. Anyway, after a while you realise that the only thing to do with the car is just to drive it hard. You cannot be timid with it, and to that extent, once you get the car moving around and you work out what it wants to do, then suddenly it comes alive. The biggest thing to get used to really is that engine, because there's just nothing, as I say, below 4,000 RPM, and you come into some of the hairpins and you really do need first, otherwise you'll be sort of halfway to the next one before anything actually happens if you leave it a second. And so back down to dogleg first, and then you're just waiting. You feel quite a lot of push at the front end without heavy steering, and then it's so stiff, so you'll get a bit of understeer, and then you need to be on the throttle really early in the corner if you want to get a decent exit. And then of course revs build and build and build, and you know it's coming, and then suddenly everything just lets loose at 4,000 RPM as the turbos spool up, and that 2.9 litre V8 just becomes a completely different animal. And at that point you've really got to be on your guard, because you're going to have to then, with the odd steering position, obviously still then catch any resulting slides. Luckily the rear end is really stiff, so actually it feels very precise and easy to catch because you haven't got the rolls to sort of deal with and account for. But yeah, doing that high up in the mountains is it's fun. It's really, really good fun actually. It feels tricky, but that's half of the enjoyment, I suppose. The other part to our journey was, of course, then driving from Switzerland all the way back to the UK. And Dean, who was in the car with me, obviously taking all the beautiful photographs that you can see, did some of the driving. And as it was for me, it was an absolute dream come true for him. I think we both had the same 1/18 scale Biarago model when we were children. And as you can see from the photo here, he is enjoying probably the greatest day of his life. Obviously, completely aside from his wedding, probably. Anyway, as a long journey car, the F40 is, well, it's probably not the best. I can see why the secret supercar owner wanted us to drive it back rather than him, because over 1,000 kilometres, it is extremely loud. Dean and I gave up trying to talk to each other or shout at each other after the first 10 minutes, to be honest. And for both of us, given we're both probably about 6'4", it feels very cramped inside, particularly when you've got all his luggage sort of strewn around the place as well. The ride and the road noise and everything makes it about as far from a GT car as you can possibly imagine, but it is still wonderful. Driving back along the M25 when it was sheeting with rain, watching the pop-up headlights, catching all the droplets in front of it in the light beams, it just felt like the most brilliant thing, and you just thought, how cool must this look on the road? So even after 1,000 kilometres in the F40, and bearing in mind it really isn't a GT car, it's still absolutely wonderful, and I absolutely love it, and I desperately hope it's not the last time I get to drive one. If you'd like to see a much better video with an F40 in it, then just click in the box up there. And lots of you have been asking about the t-shirts that I keep wearing in videos, so if you'd like to know where to buy them, then just click in the box there.